Jurassic World has hit theaters in North America finally, which means we can sink our teeth into some spoilers, and we'll do it right here on Screen Junkies News. Roth, the rest of the world almost has seen Jurassic World, but it finally hits theaters here in North America this weekend, which means we can put out our spoiler review. It seemed I forgot that we did a regular review for this movie.
I forgot too. It's been about 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah,
since we've last visited the Jurassic World.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how much do you remember?
Not much. And that's the key to when people ask me, like, Dan, why doesn't it seem like you're as angry about Jurassic World, this Jurassic World, as you were about the last one? Like, even the last one, the things I didn't like, I remembered them. I remembered the things in that movie that I didn't like. I remembered set pieces. This movie, we were talking before, a lot of times when we're doing a review, we'll do a theoretical, it's the kind of movie, you see it 2 weeks later, you're not going to remember anything about it. It's 2 weeks later, and I literally remember almost nothing about this movie, which is, some people, that's fine with them. They're like, whatever, it's forgettable. For me, that's not necessarily such a good thing. But yeah, there are a couple things that we'll talk about. But I have to say, most of Jurassic World, I have completely, it has just left my brain.
What's funny is that our producer, Billy, saw it last night, and he came in today and said he quite enjoyed it. But the fact was, in about 5 days, he wouldn't remember a single thing except the general feeling of having enjoyed it. So I wonder, audiences...
Is that good enough, Roth? I just don't think that's good enough.
Let's dive in. I think that it depends on what you want out of your movie-going experience and why you're going to the film. There's a large discussion to be had about the purpose of film, and the truth is it has multiple purposes. And you may want to be challenged one day. You really may want to open the door to some thought-provoking ponderings another day, and one day you really just may want to see the Fast and the Furious. And that's all fine. In this particular case, for me, as I think back on the movie, I feel largely how I did when we initially reviewed it, which was that it is, in terms of stylistically, the directorial choices, in terms of taking bigger swings and introducing elements that expand this world, literally, in terms of, by the end of the movie, a better movie for me than the last one. However, the last one was probably a more heightened sense of live action cartoon that allows me to disengage enough the fact that it really feels like there are no consequences, so it can just sort of wash over you like a silly experience, the way that Fast and Furious does. Where some people may disconnect is if you're really, really an animal person, and I am, so I own this, that's my bias going into it. It's a little bit too grim. If you don't have that deep sense of pain and empathy about the idea of animals being in harm's way, then it may be a fun joyride. It just wasn't that for me.
That poor dinosaur on the pier.
That poor dinosaur on the pier.
Why?
Somebody told me they laughed at it today, and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was heartbreaking.
Remember how majestic those things were when we were introduced to them,
With
and now
Laura
they're
Dern.
just fodder. How many of them drowned? How many of them? I mean, it's like they're just like, oh, whatever. Torture, pain. Again, it's an easy reaction to get from an audience. But a lot of people, that was a very deeply sad moment.
I thought it was
very sad.
I thought it was a deeply sad moment as well. I heard from a couple of people that they just found it silly, which I was surprised by because I found it deeply sad. And to your point, it's hearkening back to it's setting on fire the sense of the miracle, because that is the first time in that very first movie that you feel that catharsis through Laura Dern's response. It's how we would all react, just the awe, the majesty, and then now it's just on fire. And in a way, that's an interesting choice that J.A. Bayona is doing, which every movie to date has been about. Should we do the park or should we not? This is like, well, you did the park and these are the consequences, and now you're going to have to face them. And those consequences are going to mean either damaging the globe or killing these creations. One or the other. You need to kill your own creation or you need to put the world in extreme danger. That's kind of an interesting theme.
Well, that's the other thing, is this movie introduced a lot of interesting themes that I think they didn't really go enough. They didn't really explore them, like the concept of a black market sort of underground dinosaur market is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got the economy on it right. Like watching it, I was like, did they just open the bidding on a dinosaur at like $5 million?
Wouldn't that be more like $100
million considering
you
have a very finite quantity of these things, and they're literally extinct.
Yeah, it's like the bargain basements. It's like the Forever 21 of dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. Like come on. But again, like that's the thing though. It's a great concept, poor execution, and that's kind of what I found on a lot of the ideas of this movie. Was they dabbled their toes, and that's why I think it has it over the first movie. They dabbled their toes in some interesting areas, but they don't ever really fully execute or realize those things. And so it kind of becomes what we were talking about, is they don't fully realize it, so you don't really get much out of the themes, particularly the darker themes of this movie. However, because they are dealing in this darkness, you sort of get the grim part of going to these really dark places, but without any of the resolution or the payoff of them actually exploring it in any significant way. So it just feels like this just sort of needlessly dark venture, when at the same time they want to be the Indoraptor falls to the sky light in slow motion under the Triceratops movie. Which again, if you want to do that and be more like the first movie, do that. But I think that's where its greatest strength and its greatest weakness for me was, we're gonna delve into these deeper issues, but not really.
Yeah, and I think the ending is actually a meta comment on the movie, in that that there is a very strange, unexplored, which we will get into, plot device in that she's a clone.
Oh my God.
That is the motivation for her setting the dinosaurs loose, so that they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and have Bryce Dallas Howard, who had been fighting for them to live this whole time, have to choose humanity above these dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. And I sat there for a minute going, I don't want to watch these dinosaurs get gassed to death right now.
Yeah.
And this is very upsetting to me. And why are you doing this, movie? But then when she let them go, they were sort of having their cake and eating it too, in that sense. To me, you didn't need the twist that she was a clone at all to motivate a little girl saying, I don't want to watch these animals die, and so I'm going to make a rash decision that is ultimately going to endanger the rest of the humanity.
Can we talk about this clone thing?
Let's talk about the clone.
That is the one thing that I do remember, and when we did the release, it said that has one of the stupidest twists I've seen in a blockbuster. That was one of the dumbest twists that I've ever seen. Comes out of left, because again, first of all, you introduce this guy that was John Hammond's partner, who's never been mentioned, never been referenced, never been set up through any of the other movies in the series. Here's this guy that like they were best friends and they did this thing together.
Yeah.
Like, fine, whatever.
Never mentioned you.
Never established in any other movie. And then, but they broke up. They had a falling out. So now you're asking me to be invested in the feud between these two men, one of whom I've never heard of and has never been introduced in anything whatsoever, which again, it's just lazy writing. It's asking me to care about a character that you yourself have not done the legwork on to make me care about.
And they're asking you to care a lot. Because they're playing heavily into those emotional beats around this character that we just met. But anyway.
So then...
And they don't spend much time with.
They don't spend much time on it. The nanny, I don't... Then the third act, they drop this bombshell about this person that I don't know or care about, that he cloned his daughter, I guess. And when he was going to start a clone, that's what drove them together. So, okay, you resolved this feud that I didn't care about and didn't know existed until an hour and a half ago when you told me it did. Again, that comes into play not one bit in the rest of the movie. They go, oh my God, she's a clone. Look, there's a raptor, run. And the whole third act proceeds. And then, and I was like, why did they do this? And then you get to that point where you have this choice. And the only way that the dinosaurs don't all go extinct again right there and your franchise is over is for somebody to make the objectively wrong
decision.
Stupid, teutonically insane, bad choice there.
The decision to unleash monsters unto the earth who will most certainly
kill hundreds or
not,
if not thousands. You cannot justify that decision.
You can never unring that bell.
You cannot justify that decision or that choice from any character unless
it's a little kid.
You have written cheap motivation for no reason for someone else. And when she pushed that button and said, they have to live because they're clones and I'm a clone too, that is one of the stupidest, laziest, dumbest, cheapest ways to end a movie or to get things to happen in a way that to set up your sequel that I have ever seen. And as much as I am blasé about the rest of this movie and just think it is thoroughly forgettable, that for me was the one that pushed me over the edge to be like, that is so cheap and so lazy. And
also, I will say the other thing that sort of was bothersome to me about the clone notion, besides the fact that if you're going to introduce the idea that they're cloning humans, like go into that a little bit.
That's far more horrific than the dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. Get into that a little bit. But 3 things. It's that. 2, my real big fear is that they're setting up this idea for the next movie of hybrid human dino clones, which they've talked about in the past.
The leaked art from the
first.
The
leaked art. All of that is that now in this movie, they are pretty much setting that up with this strange plot point. And 3, she's a little girl who loves animals, right? So that's all the motivation that she needs. She's a little girl who loves animals and was obsessed with dinosaurs and does not have the brain of an adult.
No.
All she had to do was make a rash decision and then step back in horror that she had done it. And that would be more effective, except that the dinosaurs had been terrorizing her for the past 2 hours. So she would be the last person to let them loose.
I'm going to let these terrible beasts that have just menaced me and my entire family out for the rest of the way.
Now, this was a fun sequence. I will say this.
The opening?
The opening sequence was a fun sequence. No, I'm sorry. The idea of the dino in the house.
In the house,
was a fun sequence. However,
you're watching the end of it in the trailer.
You're watching the end of it in the trailer. And it does exactly what we're saying. It undercuts the end of that movie. She's just been terrorized. She's traumatized.
Yeah.
If a bear just attacked me, I'm not unleashing 20 bears, you know?
And then just, again, the horror, and they did not play into the horror of what's happening here at the end of, like this is a... It wouldn't be as bad if again, we talk about this with other, like, you know, if you're gonna be lazy, at least knock off something that's worked. And it's like you've just seen with Planet of the Apes a way to have a character in James Franco make a decision that has disastrous consequences for the human race.
But you understand why.
You understand why he did it.
Yeah.
He didn't intend for that to be the consequence, but you understood why he would be sloppy, why he would be arrogant, why he would be desperate enough to do this.
And why he didn't predict it.
And why he didn't predict it. Right. So if
this is completely predictable.
If you need someone to make a stupendously stupid decision that will put the entire future of the human race at risk, at least rip off the motivations from a movie that's shown you how to do that. I would prefer you come up with something original, but if you're going to be lazy, at least rip off something that's done it in a good way recently.
I think you also have the villains in this franchise are so arch, right? And so it's to your point, in Planet of the Apes, you actually understand everybody. You understand Caesar, you understand the humans, everybody is relatable.
Yeah.
And that's its strength. In this, almost no one is relatable, right? Because they're so broadly drawn on both sides. So when you get these very arch, I'm a scientist and I'm doing evil for the sake of evil, or I just want money and I'm doing evil for the sake of evil, or I am beyond rapture, like insanely stupid, and I am going to get in this cage and trying to steal this instead of just locking the door. It's so beyond yet you're the person they hired as this grand military expert. It becomes very difficult to connect with the storylines and the character arcs when they just, it's not even that they don't behave like human beings, because human beings do stupid things all the time.
Sure, yeah.
They don't behave with any nuance.
No,
you know, they don't behave as the characters that they've set up.
They behave as the story requires them to dictate.
Not as a character.
Not as a character inside of the story.
Because to your point, James Franco did a stupid thing, but you got it.
You understood it. And I think that's the distinction when people always ask, like, what do you want? What do you want? Why are you always griping about what it's supposed to be dumb? It's supposed to be stupid. Like, why are you holding these movies to such a high standard? It's like, because it's doable. Because there are movies of this type that have done it. And so, yes, when we see a movie like this that doesn't do it, that doesn't take the time and the care and the attention to detail to construct something where it's not that I don't hate dinosaurs running around and eating people, and it's not that I think that this shouldn't exist. I think it absolutely should exist. But at the same time, that's not enough for me to just hand wave off the fact that it is so poorly and lazily written. And I'm not saying that if you liked it that you're wrong, but for my sensibilities, I like a good story. And so when I see a movie like this that obviously did not invest the time and energy to write something good, yes, I am very critical of it because one, I just didn't enjoy it. And two, I know that you can do better. I know it's capable to be done better. They just didn't do it better. And not only did they not do it well, it's lazy.
Yeah,
it's lazy.
My gripe is that, and it's also that to me, and again, there were some things that we liked, so not to be sounding overly negative, we're just talking about some of the things that didn't work. Mm-hmm. For me, where I really, my pet peeve is a lack of commitment a lot of times in a movie, because if you're going to be a Deep Blue Sea, for example, you know that movie knows what it is. Everybody in it knows what it is.
Yes.
It is 100% committed to what it is, and therefore it's fulfilling its own goals. It has set out to do something. It has accomplished that. To me, it's a very funny, entertaining movie to watch.
It's stupid.
It's stupid.
But it knows that it's stupid. It's not the kind of dour stupidity of this movie, which is how I would describe. This movie is very stupidly dour.
Yeah. This one, and it was also at the time in particular subverting some expectations, which kept it very fresh.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable to watch for all of those reasons. What I get troubled by is when a movie will do neither. Mm-hmm. It won't fulfill it won't go to the place that Planet of the Apes did, which was commit enough to find a way to tell a good story and make relatable characters that we care about.
Right.
And it also won't just be like, oh no, we're going to go in this lane. We're going to be the Fast and the Furious. We're going to be Deep Blue Sea. And we're going to know exactly what we are and play into those tropes or play against them. But we know what we're doing here. You're trying to have your cake. It's like the ending. Yes. You're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
And for people saying that you can't do that, I was like, I'm sorry. Again, Planet of the Apes, it had both really great character work and a story that you cared about, and a monkey on a horse dual-wielding machine guns.
Yeah.
Both of those things existed in the same movie.
And they worked.
And they both worked because you've established a world, you've established a tone, you've established a character, and that's not what they're doing. So, if you want to, you can call me grumpy, you can say that I don't like anything, that's fine. But to the point of just like, why don't you just, because when people say, why don't you just shut up and like it, it's just like, why don't you just accept whatever you get and be happy about it? And it's like, that's just not that's not my sensibility.
Well, it's literally not your job. But the other thing,
that's also not my job to just shut up and like. It's like, why are you such a critic? Shut up and like everything. Like I am a critic. It's in the title. My job. Yeah.
And again, it's fine because I had a conversation with two friends today, like I mentioned, that really enjoyed the movie, and I said, "Great, that's awesome. I'm glad you had a good time at the theater." These were my my issues with it. I will say, I do think that it's attempting to do something interesting. It opens up the world moving forward in terms of now we have a real Jurassic World.
I'm interested in this next one.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with that?
Now do you have, well, let's talk about that in a minute. I do want to say that the things, they are pandering. They are absolutely pandering things. They are designed to make me want to pick up my cat and cuddle it, but they worked.
Yeah.
In that they made me want to do exactly that. Is Little Blue.
Little tiny blue.
Little tiny blue. As far as I'm concerned, Little Blue is my dog. I understood how I was being manipulated. I understood how they were having it look and nuzzle the way that a domesticated animal would when it wants to comfort you. Yeah. I just totally fell for Little Blue. I fell for the little headbutting dino, even though I thought that was wildly convenient, and that he knew exactly how to handle that was wildly convenient, and that it worked out perfectly was insanely convenient. But those sort of like endearing moments worked for me. But the problem is, because those were so effective, then the torturous moments with animals were equally effective.
Yeah.
And that's where it sort of was like, I don't know what movie I'm watching right now. Am I watching, The Last Dinosaur or The Good Dinosaur? What am I watching?
I do wish that all movies were bookended by Jeff Goldblum.
I do too. We can
not this
we can
one.
all
I wish this
agree on
movie
that.
had not been bookended by Jeff Goldblum. But in general, I wish that most movies were bookended by Jeff Goldblum.
He was right though, in the sense of like this is the first time they've addressed the idea like we made a mistake. Nature wants to correct it. It's very painful. And as an animal lover, I'd probably be in there going, wait a minute, they're alive now though.
But the first movie was about him being right.
Sure.
It literally has the line of him saying, "Boy, do I hate being right all the time."
Yeah.
So this idea of like, oh, Ian Malcolm, it draws me to the fact that he's been right about the dinosaurs all along. Yeah, I know. That's what the first movie was about. It was about how you can't predict complex systems. It was about chaos theory.
Yeah.
Life finds a way.
Yeah.
That's Ian Malcolm.
Yeah.
And again, so it's like I don't think he added anything other than to be able to write a press release saying that Jeff Goldblum returns to one set in the Jurassic Park franchise, 2 wardrobe changes, probably knocked it out in the day, and he made a lot of money.
Good for you, Jeff Goldblum. Honestly, good. We want Jeff Goldblum happy and working, so that's fine.
Yeah.
How do you think that some moviegoers were irritated that the very last shot in the film was also in the trailer?
Several of the last shots, the Mosasaurus in the surf, the lion and the T-Rex. I've seen that on TV nonstop for the last 2 weeks. I was certainly very annoyed by that. As the movie went along and we were in that house for longer and longer,
you realized you were only going to be there?
I knew what was coming. I knew that was not, I just hate using that shot, because there's a difference between that and like the Marvel thing where they put in a shot that's not in the movie.
Yeah.
Like that's a marketing tactic. I hate when they sort of misrepresent what the movie's going to be by using a shot at the climax, because again, those shots look cool. Although, again, there's a bit of a disconnect because with the raptors running over the hill and looking down on the neighborhood, like the music and the voiceover is saying, like, isn't this beautiful? Isn't this nature's majesty?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is horrifying. They're going to murder everyone
so
in that
many
subdivision. That T-Rex is going to eat every animal in that zoo and all the people there. That Mosasaurus is going to eat everyone on that beach.
Yeah.
But again, the dialogue and the music is like, this is
so
just the next step in this evolution. Look at this beautiful progress of nature. I'm like, this is horrific.
Because the movie, I really think that the movie, in a weird way, is in an argument with himself about that.
Yeah.
And in a movie that was really delving into the nuances of it, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that ambiguity, because it is an ambiguous question. There is no correct answer, unless you're just like, no, the human beings are the only species that matters, therefore destroy anything in our way, which there are many people that do not share that perspective.
Sure.
So, but it's not doing that, and so then it just is a conflicted message, which is, are we meant to be going into this next phase going like, welcome the age of dinosaurs, or behold the age of dinosaurs?
Well, that's the thing, and I feel like, again, this is talking about using a director that playing to their strengths. Like, I thought directorially Jay Obiona did a great job as far as setting the tone and the mood in that opening sequence. I loved how he used visuals and how he used shot selection, the idea of the lights going out and seeing the thing behind it. I liked some of the setups to some of the sequences in the house, the exhibits with the glass. I thought was kind of a cool setup, and I really do think that because I do think that there are horrible consequences to what happens in this movie. If they had ended the movie again, letting him play into his strengths and what he'd already done, and kind of showing us a scene of what that horror, like, somebody in their backyard being stalked by a raptor, not just a raptor kind of in a majestic shot overlooking a neighborhood, but like somebody out, the mailman, or someone hanging laundry, and these raptors are out now.
But Universal doesn't want you leaving that movie feeling sad.
It's a bummer, right?
They don't want you leaving that movie feeling sad, because then you're not going to go for a second time, and you're not going to tell your friends to go.
And you're not going to be excited about the next one.
Be excited to see what happens when Jurassic World comes, because like. You've called it Jurassic World twice, and we actually got Jurassic Park and then we got Jurassic House.
Jurassic House, yeah.
And now we maybe have Jurassic World.
Now we have Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Ian Malcolm has now officially welcomed us to Jurassic World.
This next one is Jurassic World, parenthetical, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actual Jurassic World
is
the next movie.
But they don't want you to think that that's a nightmare. But of course it would be.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
It's a horrific nightmare.
And my fear, given the introduction of the clone and all these other things, I don't think they'll do this. But the very worst thing that they could do is in the next movie create armies of hybrid humans human dino clones in order to hunt down all of the real dinosaurs that are now terrorizing the earth.
Here's what I want to know for the third one is, are they going to break up Owen and Claire again between movies? And are they going to, for the third time, go through the exact same story arc of, we're mismatched. Now we're on a dinosaur adventure. Third act kiss, because it's now been two movies in a row they followed the exact same arc.
Oh, you have to imagine.
I just from a balls standpoint, just having the cojones to do it again, I hope they're just like, we're just going to do it again.
Yeah.
We're just going to tell the same story again.
Yeah, I think that they can merge our two storylines, and there you have actual Jurassic World coming to you in 2020.
Roth, we've harped on a lot of stuff. It's really just it's that's the thing though.
Are we bumming you out? We don't want to leave you on a dour note.
I don't, but I don't even hate the movie really that much. It's just such a non thing. A lot of the laziness that I hated in the first one wasn't in this one. A lot of the laziness that I hated in the first one was in this one. I thought that there were some interesting things in it that were not in the first one. I am legitimately curious to see where the sequel goes from here.
Yeah,
I do hope that they do something different and fun and cool and unique with it. That would be nice. But yeah, this to me was just when people ask when I say blockbuster filmmaking and how it can kind of be a letdown, this is what I'm talking about. It's just I just don't see really any effort being put into it to be other than like what Billy said. And again, if that's what you love about the movies, is just going and being entertained for 2 minutes and you don't care if you remember it 2 hours from now, then that's great. That's just not my cup of tea. That's not my sensibility. I like the ones that offer a little bit more than that, and I don't think this movie was that.
I don't think this movie was that. I do think J.A. Bayona is stylistically a great director, and I look forward to seeing what he does next in his career, and perhaps he was under certain constraints. He only had so much say-so in terms of the story and the script and things like that. Universal had a lot to say about it, and that's understandable. They're protecting their franchise.
Yeah.
I am curious to see where it goes next. On the one note, we are this much closer to a Fast and the Furious Jurassic World crossover, and I'm okay with that.
They're in the real world now, and they're
both
owned by Universal.
Yeah, you know what? If you get Hobbs and Vin riding Mosasaurus and coming at each other in the next Fast and the Furious, I'm not mad at you.
Oh my god!
It's a Mosasaurus.
It's a Megalosaurus. It's a Megalosaurus.
Yeah, you got to get Statham.
There needs to be a crossover, is what we're saying.
Yeah, in the Statham Rock crossover movie, if we also have a crossover with the Meg and the Mosasaurus, into it. Yeah. Go full stupid or go home in that particular case. But this one for me was also too mixed. And the tones for me were a bit too mixed. But hey, if you guys loved it, that's awesome. It's your good time at the theaters. Let us know what you loved about it in the comments below, and tell us your pitch for actual Jurassic World.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
2020.